All right, what do you think was Orient's best new release of 2019? They had a great year. They released the Orient Commuter. They released a version 5 Bambino. They released the Kamasu and Kano divers, both of which are just incredibly well spec'd for the price. And I think you can make a strong case for any of these watches. But one watch that seemed to kind of fly underneath everybody's radar, and the watch that we're going to take a look at today, was the Orient Star Sports Outdoor Field Watch. So let's take a look at it. Hey everyone, this is Dave. Welcome back to Just the Watch. And today I want to talk about the Orient Star Sports Outdoor, which is a new watch that I picked up recently. So this watch might have been one of Orient's best kept secrets last year, but hopefully today we can remedy that. Not only am I going to be reviewing this watch, but also Shane over at Relative Time picked one up for himself, and he's also going to be releasing a review. So when you're done watching my review, make sure you head over to his channel, check out his review and get his take on the watch as well. All right, let's get into it. All right, so let me walk you through some of the things that I like about this watch and some of the reasons why this is part of the Orient Star line. What is the Orient Star line? How does it differ from Orient's typical models? Basically, this is their premium line. So think kind of like Seiko versus Grand Seiko, but not nearly as big of a gap. So they build this as a field watch, as an outdoor, as a rugged outdoor watch. It has a very elegant look, and I think it's just a great combination of like a ruggedness and elegance, and that's one of the things I really love in a watch. The interesting thing about this is, looking at the dial and then also this kind of oversized diamond-shaped crown, it really looks more like a Flieger to me, like an aviation piece, and the strap kind of plays along with that as well. But it's in a much more manageable size, and then you're also getting 100 meters of water resistance and a screw-down crown. So you're getting kind of the looks and style of a Flieger, but then with the ruggedness and the case size of a field watch. And as someone who loves both Fliegers and field watches, this is kind of like the perfect balance to me. And so, it can kind of play either role, and I really enjoy it for that. You're looking at a 41 millimeter case, 21 millimeter lugs, which is unfortunate. Orient tends to do that. It's a little bit non-standard and a little bit more difficult to source straps for. A nice 49 millimeter lug to lug, 12 millimeters thick. So great dimensions, really wearable, really comfortable as a field watch, and I think they nailed it there, other than the 21 millimeter lugs, but we'll talk about that more when we get down to the cons. Under the hood, you're getting Orient's in-house caliber F6N43, which is an automatic movement that comes with a 50-hour power reserve, a power reserve indicator, really great finishing, so it looks great through the exhibition case back. Additionally, you're getting 100 meters of water resistance with a screw-down crown, a sapphire crystal, and a genuine leather strap with a deployant clasp. So again, some more premium features that are typically not seen in more budget-priced field watches. You're getting that kind of classic 12, 3, 6, and 9 Arabic layout, leading some people to nickname this one the Explorient, because it has kind of that Explorer-style dial, and it's in a field watch design. Power reserve indicator is at 12 o'clock, which is a little bit unconventional, but it kind of maintains the symmetry, and so I think that works really well there. I want to talk a little bit about the power reserve indicator, because that's kind of an interesting complication. It's not something that you see every day. Some people might wonder if there's really much need for a power reserve indicator on an automatic watch, because it'll tend to just keep itself wound anyways. But I actually found one surprising kind of use for it. Since I don't use watch winders, it was interesting having it sit in my watch box and being able to watch it wind down. And because of that, because I could look at it in my watch box and see exactly how much juice was left into it, I was able to kind of pick it up and wind it from time to time, sort of a reminder to wind up myself. And so I wound up keeping that one wound a lot more often than my other watches. So when I did go to grab a watch, oftentimes that one would be ready to go because it had that power reserve indicator in the box. Once you get it on wrist, again, the movement of your wrist is going to keep it wound, so there's not really much need to have a power reserve indicator on there once it's on the wrist. That said, even with it on there, it really adds an extra level of interest to the dial, and it's just a fun complication to have when you are hand winding it to be able to see it go. Overall, the watch is extremely legible, very high legibility. You're getting sword-shaped hands with a very broad hour hand and then a kind of a long, slender, sharp minute hand that they kind of really contrast nicely with each other. Great contrast with the white hands and markers against that really dark, deep blue dial. And the dial itself just has a really wonderful finish to it. In most lightings, it kind of appears to be like a lacquered, almost piano black with these blue highlights. And then if you get it, into the light, a lot of times that blue will really come out and you can see it and it really shines. Another interesting little touch to this is the counterbalances on the hour and minute hands. So you can see they both extend back beyond the center of the watch, and it kind of gives you a lot of almost like a cross design in a lot of angles depending on how the hands are placed around the watch. And that's kind of just another fun little detail. I haven't seen that in a lot of other watches, and it's very subtle. The hour hand is kind of a skeletonized counterbalance, whereas the minute hand is solid. And I just think that's kind of a cool little interesting touch that they did to it. The markers are actually applied. At first I thought that they were printed, but the printing, they just look so sharp and crisp because they are applied, because there is that little base of metal that they're built upon. So there is a cutout there that the loom is then piled up on, but the cutout is so shallow you almost can't even see that they are applied unless you really look at it from extreme angles. And it's a really unique effect. I mean, I oftentimes I like really deep indices, but these ones are very subtle. And again, at first glance, it almost looks like it's just a printed dial, but it would be almost impossible to get printing with lines that crisp and that clean. And so it's just kind of a unique effect there that I think is really well done on this watch. The case finishing is one of the things that really stands out in this, and some of the best that I've seen on any watches. One of my favorite features is the bezel. So you can see on this that it's got this kind of concave edge on the bezel. So it doesn't just go straight up into the watch. It sort of has a little bit of a curve to it, and that's really cool. It gives you a lot of interesting reflections, and yeah, just another level of interest when you're looking at the watch, something else to appreciate. The brushing is very fine, going along the edges there and the tops of the lugs, and then you've got this really nice polished edge along the ridge of the lugs there. The crown is screw down and just really easy to grip and manipulate. It's just a pleasure to use. You're obviously getting hacking and hand winding with this watch. A quick set date, everything that you would expect in a modern movement. And the crown is also signed with the Orient Star logo. Overall, just a really premium feel to the entire product. The loom on this Orient Star is everything you could hope for from a field watch. It glows extremely brightly. It doesn't really need a lot of charging to get that glow. It's the kind of thing that it just works. You can walk from a bright room into a dark room and you're going to get a good strong readout on it, and it lasts for a long time. So I wanted to figure out exactly how good it is, so I decided to test it against some of the watches, other watches in my collection that I think have really good loom. And so I lined it up here, going from left to right. You have the Orient Star on the left, you have the SWC Diver, Citizen Nighthawk, the Spinnaker Amalfi Diver, and then my little Seiko SNX 079, little Seiko 5. So we're going to run these through a 1 hour time lapse. And actually I figured out a way, once the time lapse is done, we can take the final shot in that and actually measure how bright each one is by looking at the RGB values and then converting that to apparent brightness. So we'll be able to rank these and actually get a result and figure out what they rank as. So you can see that all of these watches do really well on this 1 hour time lapse. All of them are still easily visible at the end of the hour, but which one is the best? So we're going to measure it on two metrics, the hands and the markers, and you can see that the Orient Star scored second place on the hands, which is the most important measurement. You want to be able to see the hands the most, and then it scored, not too bad on the markers. The markers are not as bright as the hands, but still easily visible, and so this gets a really good score, again, especially considering the competition that you had here. So if loom is a big concern for you, then you're not going to be disappointed with this watch. I think they did a really good job on that aspect of it. All right, let's talk about cost, because I think that's going to be a big sticking point for a lot of people and probably the most confusing aspect of this watch. This is a JDM model, so it is a little bit difficult to find outside of Japan, but not impossible. And the cost, again, is very confusing. So in Japan, so I bought this one on Japanese Amazon. The retail tags on this when I got it were 68,000 yen, which is roughly 620 US dollars. So that, I think, is about the fair retail price of it. You can find this on Gnome with international shipping to America, and get it for $550. So to me, I think that's a fairly accurate valuation of this watch. If you can find it for around $550, I think you're doing pretty good, and that's a reasonable price for what you're getting. For me, I picked it up on Japanese Amazon, and there was a seller selling it on there for about $350 US, which is a great bargain, and that's what I picked it up for. I was really happy to get it at that price. Now, what's interesting about that is that if it's already selling at that level from some sellers on Japanese Amazon, I suspect that in the future you might start to see the price drop in the US, which is great news, because if you go to Orient Star's US website right now, they have this thing listed retailed at $1,400, which is really crazy, because that's almost that's more than twice what the retail tags on the watch that I bought are. So I have no idea why Orient Star USA has this listed for so much, when you can very readily find it in the $550 range. And I'll drop a link down to Gnome down below where you can check that out. There's probably some eBay sellers that are probably shipping it from Japan as well. But yeah, I think a fair price for this is around $550, but there is the potential that it could drop below that over time, because we're already starting to see the prices drop in Japan on some sellers. And now that was a really good deal. It's probably going to fluctuate some here, but yeah, kind of keep that in mind as well. I think that there's a potential to get a really good deal on this watch. All right, so let's talk pros and cons. Pros, we've been through all of this. The watch has excellent finishing. It looks great. It's highly legible. It's got amazing lume. It's got a sapphire crystal, a signed screw-down crown. Just a really great design that combines, in my opinion, the best of the Flieger and the Field watch, which just resonates so well with me. Everything about this watch is really well done. And yeah, I think, for the value, if you can pick it up for around the $500 mark, I think you're getting a great value. I think overall it's just a phenomenal watch that is nearly perfect in itself. So what are the cons? What are the things that I didn't like about the watch? First is the kind of confusing cost and marketing and the challenge of actually finding this watch and getting it at a decent price. That's unfortunate, and I hope that that's something that will get straightened away, that Orient will figure that out, and they'll be able to get this offered at a decent cost. It'll get to more US retailers, and you guys can get that going. Second, the 21 millimeter lugs. So that's, I would prefer to have either 20 or 22. Just from a pure looks standpoint, 21 millimeters looks great on this. I think it's a great proportion size of the watch, but it is a pain having to source straps for it. Now that said, 21 millimeters isn't the end of the world. You can find 21 millimeter straps now. There's a lot more sellers are carrying them. And it's kind of interesting. At 21 millimeters, you can sort of play around a little bit with 20 millimeter and 22 millimeter straps. I tried it out on some NATOs, and I found that some of the 20 millimeter straps I had didn't fit that well, but then others actually fit almost perfectly. And then most 22 millimeter straps, as long as it's not like a really thick, heavy nylon material, if it's one of the thinner ones, you can squeeze it into the 21 millimeter lugs without too much of an issue. You can even squeeze a lot of 22 millimeter leather straps on there as well. So if you're willing to play around with it, I have some hesitation with leather straps. If you're squeezing it on there, you might wind up actually squeezing the leather and then having trouble putting it back to a 22 millimeter watch. But that is an option as well. Plus, again, you can find 21 millimeter straps out there. And then the final thing I have to complain about is that the strap that it comes with, it's just okay. It's a nice looking strap. I think it matches the watch great, but the feeling of the leather isn't super high quality. And it's something that, that would be something that I would be tempted to change out. But other than those three minor things, this is one of the best watches that I've ever worn, and I really am enjoying it. So if you can find a place to pick this watch up, I think it's definitely worth your while to check out. It does come in a lot of different colors, and I was really tempted by the green dial one. I thought that one looked really cool. I went with this blue dial one, which I really love the finish on, so I have no regrets there. But yeah, there's a lot of great options out there, and definitely worth checking out. Again, I think this is one that a lot of people have overlooked, and I think that's kind of a shame, because in my opinion, it is a great watch, and it's one of the best ones that I've seen from Orient. So definitely encourage you guys, if you're interested, to do the work and try and track one down, and hopefully you can find it for a good price. Let me know what you guys think. That'll conclude the review for today. Give me some comments down below. If you have any questions about the watch, I'd be happy to answer them in the comments as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for those of you who have been subscribing and commenting. It's always great to interact with you and talk with you. I had a good time with our 10,000 subscribers Q&A, and then recently being on the SoCal Watch Reviews podcast was a lot of fun as well. So it's kind of cool to have some of this community interaction also. But yeah, that'll wrap it up for today. We'll talk to you later, and see you next time.